Okay, so Victor says, please show us again where in Power Options we can find these repair ideas for a long call, including the suggestion of shorter-term calendar bear calls. As you're tracking the position in a portfolio, Victor, I did not enter her position into this one. I was using the other one. So let's do that real quick. I'm not going to put it in this portfolio. Why not? May 25th follow-up. Doesn't matter. I apologize, Eileen. Let me just put this back in. AMZN. I was doing it on my actual account as opposed to this. So we have to enter the position, Victor, into the portfolio. 2023. It's going to cut me off, isn't it? Yep. All right, so I got to view all options. I'm sorry for the scrolling, folks. It's got to load all the options now. I got to go to January once again. $205 call. Price was 20. And we have 20 contracts. So I'm not going to worry about the date, Victor, but we're just going to leave that in there, okay? All right. So now as I'm tracking any position in the Power Options portfolio tools, whether it be a covered call, maybe a spread trade, maybe a bear call to begin with, as I'm tracking the positions, I'll click the More Information button, Victor, go to Position Actions, and then Position Analysis. This gives us a breakdown of our current position, our current loss, that's where the 97, 98% loss we were talking about, and our future expiration value. If we don't do anything, the stock stays at the same price. And then there's a section for rollout opportunities. This one was so far beyond Victor, unfortunately, that it couldn't be found. Let's take another one to see what ideas might appear. But there would see some rollout opportunities. Whether the stock was up, you'd see turning it into a diagonal calendar spread, selling calls against it, perhaps converting it to a spread, or rolling up the call is the most common one you see to lock in the gains you have. On the downside, you might see the calendar version, I think. I'm pretty sure it's in there, selling that lower call, Victor. I don't know. The stock repair wouldn't come up. That's different. I did that manually. So instead of going into the portfolio, I just went directly into the stock repair tool. And then we put in the information of our stock cost and our number of shares. We fake that based on the contract size, Victor, and making the number of shares, the contract size 100, and what our price would be if we bought the stock, exercise the call. What would our costs on the stock be, Victor? So the other ideas that were made, and I tried other butterflies, but let's try to take a look at another. I tried other butterflies, and I didn't see any other profitable ones I was using. But what I did, Victor, here is I just came into the profit and loss chart. And then I knew that we're in January. And as I mentioned, I want to stay out of the money, depending, again, what my expectations are. If I thought the stock was going to fall, I mean, in order to get the $20, we're selling a 106, 105 call against the position, which would create a bear call credit spread with a 100-point spread. That'd be a $100,000 requirement, margin requirement on the position. But again, as I mentioned, because I want to give myself some room, these ones are below the $20 cost basis of that Amazon long call, but I just added it in and simulated it to show it. So now that we've added that in, we scroll down below. There's my initial call I linked from the portfolio. We'd sell the January 18 call. And that was the profit. Oh, it's a little bit less now because the premium got a little bit higher. It's $15.15 here. I think when I did it was $13.75. Does that sound correct? So that's how I was doing it, Victor. I was just using the profit and loss chart since no rollout opportunities appear. When you're in the position analysis and you don't see any rollouts, you want to click this button here for what if calculations, and that takes you to the profit and loss chart where you can try to simulate these other ideas and these other concepts. Fantastic. Okay, so that is that. And Victor, that is how we use the tools. If we don't see any rollout opportunities for our long call positions in the position analysis, we'll link to that profit and loss chart / what if calculations and run manual adjustments on this position. And again, of course, as I mentioned, there's some ideas in the help sections of Power Options on the management, of course. There's some discussions, in the free webinars archive page on management techniques for covered calls, naked puts, calendar spreads, long calls, long puts, credit spreads, debit spreads, and so forth. But you can also just find them easier here. Go to Power Options, go to the playlists, click on the strategy that you want, and there's going to be a management there, management discussions. So call buying and long calls, view full playlist. The 3 I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation are all here. There's 8 ways to manage a profitable one. We wish Eileen was in this position, but she's not. So that's where we're here. And so we're looking at ideas for managing a losing bought call. Can I use the stock repair and managing a bought call that is near full loss? And Eileen, your follow-up question there says, do you think a broken wing butterfly would work? You can't. Let me explain this. The reason why I stuck with the midpoint on our butterfly example, Eileen, is because I wanted to get a good enough premium for the options that we're selling. See, we're already locked into this leg. There's nothing we can do about this 205. So we simulated doing a 160. I'm sorry, January 2023. All right. I simulated the midpoint of the 160 and then using the even 115, which is slightly in the money now, as an example, so that both legs were even. On a broken wing butterfly, you usually want the upper wing to be higher. And that's when you open it. You open maybe a 10-point spread down below, let's say buy a 120 now and sell 2 130s and then buy a 205. What's going to be the problem? The difference is on the 130. We'll just take a look at it. Maybe we'll go 140. No, I'm going 130. You're going to get a higher premium here than the 160 that I bought. But going to the 120 now, you're paying pretty close to that difference that you're getting. You're going to get a small credit on this transaction for lower cost. But now what have you done? Remember, this is your bear call, the 130 to the 205. Now, instead of having a 45-point strike difference from 205 down to 160, you've got a 75 margin requirement on 20 contracts. So that's going to change the margin requirement of the position. But hey, we're here. Let's check it out. This is what I meant by other types of butterflies, skewing it to a lower direction to maybe get a higher premium or skewing the strikes. But again, it might look better. It looks terrible. I'm sorry for that. So this didn't work. It didn't give us enough oomph here. Maybe I'd have to go to the 150, 140 or 150, 130, but it didn't give me that positive gap at the 160. So you might have to run some of these scenarios. Now, as I mentioned, you get a net credit here on this one. That's great. That's a great aspect. You're taking in $35,800, paying $26,900. You lower the total cost to $31,000, but what is this maximum risk? It's due to the margin requirement of that additional $75,000 roughly on top of the total cost for the strike differences of 20 contracts, 205 bought, 130 sold. That's your 75 bear call spread. The more you skew it to the downside, the higher this risk number is going to get to. Actually, that is lower than what it was on our, oh no, I'm sorry. That's lower than it was on the bear call by itself. This is double, triple, not triple, but yeah, more than 2 times more what it was on the standard evenly split butterfly as opposed to creating a broken wing. But you could attempt to play with the numbers to look, but I think, if I go up to 150, 160, maybe this total cost is higher, but maybe the max risk comes down and maybe this starts inching towards a profit. Maybe I have to be 20 points apart or 30 points apart here instead of 45 or 70 between the long one we already own. But we're locked into the long, so now it's a game of just trying to play it. This is a broken wing butterfly in a sense. But again, if your anticipation is going to move back up, you're skewing it to the wrong side. I mean, why wouldn't I do, let's say, if I have the 205 call, do the opposite broken wing butterfly? In other words, maybe sell 40 180 calls and buy 20 120 calls, so the wider side is to the downside, because you're not taking enough premium here because that's so far out of the money. You're taking less premium on the 180s. You have a lower margin. That is true. Absolutely. For this bear call side. But this is going to cost you a ton, and now you're only getting $1.20 or $1.30 back if we're up into that range. Well, it's probably $7 or $8. I think ours was $8 for the 160 call. So the 170 or 180 might still be $6, $6.50, $7, something along those lines. You can play around with the numbers though, but this one does not look attractive. And if you skew to the upside, you're taking in less premium. you have less margin, but you're still paying a whole lot more money for this than you're getting back on the further out of the money to a broken wing on the other side. And it might not look the same.